Hi Ron, welcome to 8 Labs. We're excited to have you in today with us. What we're doing in our laboratory here is actually taking information from one product or one substrate and transmitting that information over to another substrate. This is something that's really not being done anywhere that we know of in the United States right now. There's a lot of experimenting going on in Europe, but we think maybe we have the most advanced lab in the US for doing what we're trying to do here. So what we want to show with this lab is that we can instantly prove that if we take a material from one source and put it into another source, that the body is going to biologically reflect that same information. So what we have over here, you can see, is a blood testing area that we're just now putting together so that we can literally do blood tests on the fly and show changes in white blood cells and red blood cells. We've got different type of testing equipment over on this table. We can do magnetic testing. We can do sleep testing with a Chio machine. We've got a Chio machine that's developed by a friend of ours that we can program the cards that go into the Chio. Then the Chio will radiate the room and pick up the program that we're putting into their cards. We've got the ability to do heart rate, blood pressure testing over here. We're actually trying to find as many products on the market that we can do saliva test with or pee test with to show instantly how we're able to affect the body. Over on this side, we have an actual extraction imprinting unit set up to demonstrate for you today. We monitor everything with an oscilloscope. So technically what we're doing here is we're generating a sound signal. We're transmitting that signal from a transmitting antenna to a receiving antenna, and then we're bringing it back, the signal back, through a series of coils that can pull information from one source, and then we can dump it into another source that's between these two antennas. And this is a very powerful field that we're generating. As you can see here, if I activate the signal going through here that happens to be 165 kilohertz at this time, you can notice that the fluorescent light bulb shines brightly over on the left. That would be where we would put materials that we're going to program. We control this with a power supply on the bottom that's constantly monitoring the amperage with what we're doing. As you can see by this board, we've actually blown this board up on purpose, trying to see just how many watts of power we can put through the primary coil on this board to generate the signal through this particular vortex pattern. So this one we blew up at about 12,000 watts. And to put that in perspective, 12,000 watts would be the equivalent of what you could run your house on if you had a smaller house. So we're talking about an awful lot of power here. We actually took out half the building when we blew this board up here a couple of weeks ago. So the concept behind our technology is really quite simple. If you think about a black hole in space, everybody knows that once you cross the event horizon in a black hole, whatever is in that spinning vortex will be sucked to the center of the vortex. So if we're going to capture information out of a substance, we want to put that substance on the coil and we want to pull all that information to the center of the vortex, and then we want to take all that information from the center and extract it back to the outside. So we're actually just sending it into the black hole and then we're retrieving it back out of the black hole. And we've proved with university studies that this is very effective and provable, that we're actually picking up materials and transmitting them into holograms or wristbands or water or various other substrates. So what are the applications for this extraction imprinting technology? We have products that deal with pain relief on the body, that deal with weight loss, that deal with sleep. So we can literally put you to sleep or reduce pain in your body with a signal as opposed to using a drug and a chemical. We also have some tremendous agricultural applications that we're doing testing on right now. As you can see over here on the board, one of our products is to extend the shelf life of fruits and vegetables, and we're kind of shooting as a target goal for about 2 weeks. This would literally affect every shipper, every grocer, and every refrigerator in the world, we feel, so an enormous market for this. We also are working on a couple of serious situations in agriculture. One is called the spotted fruit fly problem, which is a fly that actually came from China back maybe 10 years ago now, 7 years ago. Started kind of in Tampa and then came up the coast, the East Coast, and now it's in 40 states and it's over into Europe. And what the spotted fruit fly does, it gets into blackberries and blueberries and basically causes tremendous damage in lost crops. So we're running tests right now in South Georgia. We've got a huge blueberry field down there that we're treating this field, and then we're measuring, can we increase the growth rate of the blueberries, and can we keep the spotted fruit fly out of the berries. We also are working on another test down in Florida where we're dealing with citrus greening. So Florida has a $9 billion a year citrus industry now that is in peril, that technically some of the reports that we've seen will say that the citrus industry could be gone in Florida within 5 years if something can't happen with citrus greening. So we've got 2 or 3 different ways that we're trying to look at citrus trees, and you can see the orange tree down here, and see if we can stop this greening problem, which is caused by to put it simply, a type of insect that gets into the tree and literally destroys the tree's ability to create the oranges in significant volume to make it profitable to run an orange grove. If you look up here, you can see just some cute things that we've been doing. That's me in the lab, just literally holding up a couple of fluorescent lights to show that we're generating a tremendous field. The reason you saw the first unit in a tent is we use that tent as a Faraday cage to decrease the radiation that's coming out of the tent into the rest of the building. We've got another lab that you can see up here on the top that's out in Denver right now. We're doing some very advanced stuff in that lab, testing different ways to increase the signaling process. My son Troy is out there coordinating things in that lab. You can also see over here a picture of a peach that gets a lot of attention. This is an impressive demonstration to show doctors. And the reason is we've taken this peach, we put our mass disc on one peach, we put our purified disc on the second peach, we put nothing on the third peach, we let them sit for 12 days. At the end of the 12 days, the peach without a signal going to it was totally rotten. The other 2 peaches were just like they came out of the grocery store and still fresh. So this has tremendous applications, obviously. We've got another lab here in Atlanta that we kind of do more secret stuff in, that you can see over here. In the middle, we're creating some unique waveforms. If you look at this particular waveform, it clearly shows that we're creating a spinning vortex pattern between our different systems of transmitters and receivers. A lot of our technology comes from Constantine Mail. We actually bought into his theories on longitudinal waves way back in 2007. We have a tremendously good relationship with Constantine. He stays with us when he comes to the United States. He lives over in Villingen, Germany, in the Black Forest. So we go over there, stay in his home, work with his engineers, and we've been able to really progress this science tremendously with his help. The new boards that we're developing now, he actually did the engineering on those boards. We've created a bunch of them here that are in our 2 labs here. We've got another potential lab that we're looking at over in Southeast Asia. And probably best not to talk about which country, but it's not China. And then we've got Constantine's lab going over in Villingen. We've got our lab out in Denver. So we've got several different places that literally 24 hours a day somebody is working on our technology around the world. Constantine is doing a conference in Lyon, France early May, I think the 2nd and 3rd of May, and we've been invited to present at that conference. So basically, we will be presenting with doctors from around the world. There'll probably be 100 doctors there. There are probably 10, 12 presenters at the conference. They are all doctors, so they're in the university systems or they're medical doctors. And we're really honored to be invited to present in there. And we think that because of the power applications that we've created, that we're really going to impress all these guys that are in the longitudinal signaling area, and we think they're all going to be looking at us to help them kind of improve the kind of signaling that they're doing, because they're all working in a very low voltage area. We're actually working in a much higher voltage area. If you look at Constantine's basic experimental unit, we use this unit when we're testing things on a small production basis. So we can actually put something between these two antennas and we can program with a much higher frequency than we're doing in our other units here. We're in the low kilohertz range in our lab here when we're doing bigger volumes of material. Over here we're kind of in the mid 4 to 7 megahertz range with Constantine's system. But we can create tremendous imprinting through this small system, and in fact we used this small system to start our company, and this was all we had for the first couple of years. And we did some of our testing actually at the University of Alabama, and down at Troy was actually done on the small system, and now we've cranked up, you know, much bigger and more powerful systems to do things with. So we're working on a project with this lady over here is Dr. Deborah Mash from the University of Miami. She is one of the top brain researchers in the world. She has a project that she's been working on for years called Ibogaine. And Ibogaine is a drug. It's actually a class 1 drug that you can't transport without a license to transport it in the United States. But Ibogaine has some serious implications on taking addictions out of people without the normal excruciating side effects. So if you've got heroin or cocaine or some of these really bad things, they've actually done some super testing with even smoking to stop the addiction of smoking. So we're taking that drug and actually turning it into a signal and putting it into a substrate like a hologram or a band, and we're looking at some other items that would be just as effective, and we're going to try to signal the body. And I think Dr. Mash is actually going to crank up a 120-person test down in Florida, where we'll have about 40 placebo people in there. We'll have 2 different tests running with 40 on one test, 40 on another test, just looking at different ways of doing this, and then we'll have our placebo group thrown in so that we can identify that we're getting really good results. So I think that's about it, and I appreciate you coming and taking our little lab tour.